Okay guys, so this is now week 5's vlog. I'm actually looking quite forward to this vlog piece because it's the first week where I've actually not had much going on. So just a quick recap, I ruptured my Achilles in week 1, so at the end of April 2023 I went to A&E and got my foot in a cast on the day it happened. And then I had pretty much like a 2-week wait before on the NHS, so the public service here in England, to go and get a scan, ultrasound scan. It was about 2 weeks later, confirmed the rupture, and they put me in a cast. In weeks 3 and 4-ish, you will see from my other vlogs, I wanted to get a second opinion, so I paid for a private appointment with a foot and ankle specialist surgeon in England who was happy with the conservative route and said that maybe on day 1, because of how active I am, that he might have recommended surgery, but he has written me a letter as well, which kind of confirms that he put me in a 15 to 20 degrees equinus position at our appointment, and he couldn't feel a gap. He was really happy and he was really optimistic about the recovery and just told me not to worry, and the fact that I'm athletic and move a lot and train just made him think that this would be a good recovery if I just take care and take care of it. I then went to see a physio who's a sport-specific physio for this injury, who actually treats NBA stars, and he was a little bit more for the surgical route, probably because everyone he sees are athletes who need to get back to training as soon as possible, and for that, surgery is definitely the route that you should be taking if you're trying to get back on court or back to your sport, and time is of the essence. For me, time is not that much of the essence. I want to get back to doing my sport 100% the way I used to. But if it takes a little bit longer for me, it's not the end of the world. So I'm not getting paid to perform competitively. So conservative route works for me. In today's vlog, we're just going to go through week 5, kind of how it's been. So I actually returned to personal training, being out and about more. So I'll just talk a little bit about that. I want to cover just really quickly things I've been doing in week 5. Excuse me, in week 5, which I think are useful. I'm just going to really cover quickly what I do around exercise and movement. I went to the gym. This is week 6 now. I went to the gym for the first time today, so I've signed up to the gym. And the reason I've done that is because I've realized it's far more easier to do exercise safely in a gym environment where things are already set up. And you can move around really freely in an open space. It's actually quite tricky to do stuff at home, I've realised. So I'm going to be going to the gym a little bit more often now that I've signed up. I'm going to talk a little bit about nutrition, what I do, and just rest and stress, what I do around that. So I've got a few props. Oh, I'm also going to talk about something I said I'd talk about a while ago, which is how and what I think happened when I got injured. I think I can take a little bit of time out to explain my situation there. So let's go. So first one is nutrition. So I said I'd record a separate video for this, which I am, but to cover this in like 30 seconds to a minute, the things that I'm supplementing with at the moment, which again, this is not me advising you to do it because that's out of my remit of what I do. I'm just saying what I use. 100% take creatine supplement. So I take 3 grams. I think the recommended dose for optimum is 5 grams because it helps retain more water in your muscles, and that will be useful for recovery and just training in general. I think the science behind this, from what I've heard and read, is quite good compared to other things like BCAAs, which I'm actually staying away from now and supplementing with really specific amino acids. So in terms of what I want to do, so protein intake, I'm going to, again, recording my nutrition video, but the must-haves I have are chicken breast, which, depending on the size, can be anywhere between 30 to 50 grams of protein. I take a protein shake, so I think a whey protein is your best bet for a protein supplement if you're supplementing, and that gives me about 28 grams. And then if you have eggs, so an egg is about 6 grams depending on the size, a large egg. So if you have 3 eggs, that's 18 grams of protein. So if we take modest 30 grams of chicken, 30 grams from my protein shake, and then let's say 18 or 20 from eggs, and that's about 80 already. I weigh about 78 kilograms, and as I said before, you probably want to be eating at least 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight to maintain and build, and then probably closer to 2 during this sort of recovery phase. I find it quite hard to get to 2. It's a lot of protein. So for me, I'm pitching between 1.5 and 1, which kind of is a lot easier for me to do on a daily basis. 2 is really hard. Without me just losing the will to eat that sort of stuff very quickly. So that's pretty much it. Main things I have are, so I'll just supplement with vitamin D, just because it's good for bone health and mental health, I believe, and definitely omega-3s again. I think there's good stuff around omega-3 research for the benefit it has on mental health. Being home and sedentary a bit more potentially, I think it's something that's quite interesting and definitely something useful to have a think about in terms of what you're having. And then I take a beetroot supplement just to sometimes, not every day, just to see if that might increase blood circulations to areas where, like my foot, which are not moving so much. That's pretty much it around nutrition. Exercise, so today's the first day I've gone back. I would definitely say you have to plan really well, and you can't train the way that you used to. So I used to train in a way that I didn't have to worry about what I was doing necessarily the next day. Now I have to train depending on what I'm doing the next day because I've gone back to work. And the hardest thing I found about being back at work is just being on my crutches for the periods from the car park to the site. So just doing something like 200 or 300 meters on crutches is knackering compared to like 30 or 40 meters, which is just nothing you can do repeatedly with rest in between. So I found initially, at least, that it took me at least a day after those shifts to recover fully. Thankfully, I have a big gap between the times I'm at this particular site. So I'm having to plan a lot more in advance, and I'm prioritizing rest over exercise for sure, and recovery. Now that I'm back in the gym, I'm also thinking about when I'm doing legs, not overworking them because I'm so reliant on especially my right leg to get me home, and not wanting to just effectively be immobile and so tired with my legs that I can't get home safely. So I did a little bit of work today, and I used these occlusion bands, which are blood restriction bands. Let me just show you what they look like really quickly. So I tie these around my leg, and then I hit a button and they inflate and they start to restrict blood coming back into my body for the amount of sets I do. I do one exercise for legs, 4 sets, and you do kind of a low, it helps you to train with lower resistance or lower weights but higher reps. I'm doing a totally separate video on that. Something my physio actually recommended, and I do think they're quite cool, but quite expensive. You will see from the last video, I actually bought the big sort of leg pump thingies, which I'm going to be returning. I think they're worth a try. They might work for you. Some people love them. This seems to be the better thing for me. That's that. What else? Movements. I'm definitely prioritizing this recovery, so trying to minimize stress and trying to rest more, listen to relaxing music, get into bed earlier, read, all these types of things, because I'm still in stressing myself out when I go and do some exercise, which I do at home or at the gym now, which will be at least 4 times a week, I think. Probably, but less intense sessions, and they're more like 30, maybe 40 minutes. What else useful can I tell you this week?